One of the things we want to talk about today is deworming stocker cattle or replacement heifers or even mature cows. When we talk about deworming cattle, there's really three groups of dewormers out there, two groups that are commonly used. One of the groups is what we call the macrocytic lactones. Examples of products there would be Cydectin, Dectomax, Ivamec, and Epronex would be the four main ones in that group. And then we also have the white drenches or paste. Examples there would be Synanthic, Safeguard, Panicure, and Valvacin. What we're fixing to do here in a minute is demonstrate how to use a pour-on dewormer to deworm some replacement heifers we have here. And one of the keys when we're deworming cattle is we want to have a pretty accurate weight on them. So these heifers we actually weighed earlier today, and these heifers, the group behind me over here that we'll demonstrate on, averaged about 825 pounds. So what we want to do is look at our product, and most products will have a dosing guide on the bottle. And so for this particular product, we'd look at it, and the two doses at 35 cc's is for 770 pound calves, so that isn't quite enough. If you look at the next, it's 40 for 880 is what it'll say on the syringe here. But when we actually go to flip through this, there'll be a spot in the middle, and we can set that for 37.5, which would be the appropriate dose for these heifers that we're going to deworm here in a minute. Typically, whether we're talking about deworming cows or replacement cattle, and I'll start with cows first, is in the eastern half of the state, there's 2 times of the year that we consider the most important to deworm cows. The most important would be late spring or early summer, somewhere from May 15th to about July 1st. And the reason we want to deworm then is we have the worms in the cows where we can kill them, and then typically the hot, dry temperatures during the summer will help kill some of those worms out on the pasture, reducing reinfection rates on those cows. The second most important when we're talking about a cow herd is going to be after that first good hard frost or freeze, which is sometimes inconsistent. So typically what I tell most producers to think about is deworming sometime late November or December, and we'll get that treatment taken care of. And so that's what we would do on the cow herd. When we're talking about stocker cattle or replacement heifers, we may go ahead and add additional deworming. Typically when I'm looking at replacement heifers or young cows, I may add a spring deworming in there sometime around late March or April, and then followed up with that summer and again that fall deworming. So what we're going to do is bring these heifers in here and actually demonstrate how to do this. When we're talking about, and we're going to demonstrate a pour-on product today, you can either get pour-on or injectable. I tend to prefer the pour-on products just because you get a little broader spectrum external parasite control. You'll get both types of lice, both body and sucking, whereas with the injectable products, we're only going to get the sucking lice. The other nice thing about the pour-on products is, especially if we're deworming during the heat of the summer, you know, that June or early part of July, we don't necessarily have to catch every animal in the squeeze chute, and we can line them up in the lead up behind the chute and put the dewormer on them. So that's what we're going to do today. With the pour-on dewormers, you'll see them in containers anywhere from a ½ liter, which just has a little measuring deal on the side, up to 10 liter here, which is what we have, which has a dosing gun that we're going to demonstrate here in just a minute. Okay, so we did the first heifer in the chute. Now we're just going to come down and do the rest of these. Nice and calm, and basically I've just dewormed 4 heifers in about 20 seconds here. So we'll go ahead and let them out and then bring our next set in. Make sure to let your syringe refill before you go to dose the next one. We're just going to come up to them, and I just want to go from the shoulders to the tail head. The really nice thing about these automatic guns is once you set it, you get the correct dosage each time. Okay. The other thing, if you noticed, I didn't squeeze this real hard. You don't want that dewormer to hit the back of those cattle and splash off. These new guns have really nice ends that prevent that, where it's not so bad, but you don't want it shooting off of them when you put it on. So you see when I squeezed it real hard how it had some more force and splash. Some of the different design guns are even worse and will splash a little bit more, but just a nice steady pressure is what we want when we're putting this on.